YouTube! Welcome to Fred's Full Throttle. This is a new page for the channel, moving to videos every other week, and right out of the gate we're coming in hot. This week I'm going to cover the Corvette E-Ray, we're going to swing on over to Z06 land, and we're going to talk about two things: rampant, flagrant gouging by dealerships, and a Z06 with a failed engine. Next will be the news of the first 911 hybrid from Porsche. Then from my last video, a really cool real-world connection that I just learned about for that LS-swapped Lamborghini Diablo. And last but certainly not least, I want to provide a first quick update on my path to becoming a race car driver in the 24 hours of lemons. We've got a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. First things first, finally the official Corvette E-Ray unveiling date has come out, January 17th. By the time you're watching this, that will have actually happened a few days ago. More interestingly, to me at least, is that Chevy has been benchmarking the car against the Ferrari SF90 Stradale. This isn't new news, as the car has been spotted on the GM proving grounds as far back as last August and occasionally since then. The reason though that I'm mentioning this is because the E-Ray is starting to really take shape. Let me remind you that the SF90 is a 986 horsepower hybrid all-wheel drive supercar, similar to the Z06 being benchmarked throughout development with the Porsche GT2 RS and the Ferrari 488 and 458. GM is making it clear who their target is. There are a few things that I think are worth mentioning here. First, that while Chevy may be gunning for the much more expensive Italian, it will be quite a challenge for Chevy to beat or even match the outright performance of the SF90. First, with the shared platform of the Z06 expected to underpin the E-Ray, the Z06 is already a somewhat heavy car at nearly 3,800 pounds. The SF90 weighs about 200 pounds less at around 3,600, owing in part to significantly more of the car being made of carbon fiber, including large sections of the chassis and the structure. Next, the power output. With the LT2, which is widely expected to be the gas-powered half of the powertrain equation in the E-Ray, making right around 500 horsepower, this puts a delta of nearly another 500 horsepower for the electric motors to fill in. While at this time it's all rumors, I have yet to hear anyone speculate that the E-Ray will be making anywhere north of 700 horsepower. Instead, most rumors suggest that the car will slot in slightly below the Z06 for horsepower, but with significantly higher torque owing to the twist from the front electric motors. But Chevy is crafty, and they've got one ace up their sleeve, which plays right into their wheelhouse. And that's very good traction management and getting the power to the ground. They have a massive R&D budget, have a lot of time for testing and testing and testing, and the Z06 rips off repeated low 2-second 0 to 60 times. It wouldn't shock me if the E-Ray does even better and really puts that power down. Now, changing gears a little bit in Corvette land, let's take a moment to talk about the Z06. The cars keep cranking off the production line, more people are starting to finally get them, and social media and YouTube are now full of pictures, videos, and people sharing their thoughts. Reception has remained very positive, and the car is really starting to make a name for itself. We've got some performance records being set, we've already got people modifying them, and we've even got some aftermarket companies starting to sell aero kits for the car, wings, and other carbon fiber. But there's two stories here I want to touch on. First is the well-known Z06, which had a total engine failure at about 52 miles. It's been widely shared across the news, social media, and the like. I'm not going to dive into the details here, just Google it if you're curious, but you can bet that Chevy is going to be tearing apart that engine and carefully looking at what went wrong. Armchair internet trolls, of course, have glommed onto this story, using it as some sort of validation that the Z06 isn't what it was cracked up to be. I've seen more than a few of these trolls commenting that this proves that it won't be a reliable car. Don't listen for a second to any of that BS. GM's been running the LT6 in racing for more than a year and put hundreds, if not thousands of hours on testing their various test cars in high-performance situations. This is likely chalked up to something like a manufacturer defect, something that might not have been tightened. Unfortunate? Sure. But out of the numbers of cars made so far, this is less than 0.02%. And I have yet to hear of any other credible reports of Z06 issues beyond the occasional panel gap and orange peel paint. As far as I can tell, the trolls are trying to make a big deal about an isolated incident, so just ignore them. The other Z06 story doesn't have as happy an ending just yet, and that's the sorry state of affairs and how many dealerships are charging massive markups, cresting $100,000 on these cars, or more laughably, greedy buyers looking to flip and make a buck. The flippers will take care of themselves pretty quickly, I think. Prices are already dropping, and at some point someone's going to get stuck with a car that they paid way too much for, adding a markup to a marked up car, and will be left holding the bag. I, for one, look forward to seeing that. I've already said that I can't stand flippers, I mean scalpers, in any form, so seeing a few of them get stuck upside down is always going to be good for a laugh. Yeah, free market, it's their car, blah blah blah. It may be legal, but that doesn't make it the right thing to do, and it doesn't help enthusiasts who actually want to drive the car get a hold of one. As someone who has repeatedly seen my own dream car, the GT3, always being just out of reach for similar reasons, I have no sympathy for these people. Now, the same side of the same coin falls to dealerships that are doing much the same, but even worse. They're still charging exorbitantly high markups, but it's made worse by the fact that there's no penalty to them like there is for an immediate reseller. Sure, free market, blah blah blah, again, but it's nothing but pure greed on the part of these dealerships, gouging the brand's most passionate supporters just because they can. The only thing that I can say there is that all the social media posts that I've seen on Z06 groups of the cars with these markups generally have a ton of laughing emojis and a salesperson trying to justify the price only to get laughed out of the room. Hold strong, everyone. Even if you really want the car and can afford the markup, the prices are dropping, and these gougers don't deserve anyone's business. End of story. Alright, moving on from Corvette news, let's jump over the pond for a second to Germany and talk for a moment about one of Corvette's longtime rivals, the Porsche 911. Many of you reach out each time I cover something about Porsche, thrilled that I'm talking about them. If you're newer to the channel, especially if you joined in the last year or so, you may be surprised to learn that I am as big a fan of Porsche as I am for Corvette. Well, going forward, you're going to see more about Porsche starting right now. If you haven't been following along closely, Porsche's been hard at work. They've released RS versions of both the GT3 and the GT4. They've been working on their carbon-neutral combustion e-fuel project as an alternative to electric cars, and they've released or announced a couple pretty neat special edition cars recently, including the Sport Classic and the forthcoming 911 Dakar. Neither of these two special editions is too much of a surprise, playing instead to Porsche's past editions from prior generations. However, one recent bit of news stands out a little bit more, and that's the 911 Hybrid. Let me get you up to speed. Porsche has seen great success with the all-electric Taycan. It's been their best-selling model pretty much from the day it was released a couple years ago. They've also outlined a roadmap for the coming decade which sees a diverse mix of gasoline-only, hybrid, and full EV models. The next generation of Boxster and Cayman are going to be full EVs, for example. However, the 911 has to this point remained a combustion-only car. But showing that there is always more ways to slice the pie, Porsche has announced that they will be making a 911 hybrid. Porsche and Volkswagen Group chairman Oliver Blume recently confirmed that a 911 hybrid is on the way. Stating that it will be a very sporty version of hybridization, he also went on to state that this would be offered alongside strictly combustion versions of the 911. Alongside this announcement, he stated that the 911 will be the model that they offer with a combustion-only option as far as possible into the future. Now, there wasn't any information about the release date or if the hybrid would be offered for the 992 generation or only for the one that follows, but this is hardly surprising. Porsche has long been a company to embrace innovation, offer a wide variety of options across their product line, and try to find a balance to keep purists and enthusiasts happy while also moving the needle forward. Now, concerns from purists aside for a moment, I think that this has some real potential. Other high-end supercar manufacturers have embraced electrification as a way to offer staggering performance and improve efficiency. Think of how fast the all-wheel drive variants of the 911 already are and how torquey their cars are now that almost all are turbocharged. Add the instant torque of electric motors to the mix and the cars stand to really impress. One point I'm specifically interested in is the actual implementation of the motors. Porsche already offers an all-wheel drive variant of almost every model, including some exclusively with all-wheel drive. The question stands, would they dramatically change the underlying architecture to replace the front drive shafts and differentials with electric drivetrains and motors, or would they instead mount the electric motors where they can access the existing architecture and act as a supplement to the current drivetrains? I don't have a sense yet of which is more likely, but both approaches have been used by various manufacturers, so both likely remains a possibility. Now back to the 911 purists for a second. The good news here is that this will be a specific model or trim level inside the 911 lineup, rather than mandatory on all versions of the car. I can understand the concerns about weight and losing feeling, but on the other side of the coin, you're not losing any of the other amazing options for the 911. For those that complain, you have plenty of options. Even better, at least in my opinion, is that the back catalog of prior generations of 911 are all pretty stellar to drive and they're fun. There are tens of thousands of them out there, with Porsche having built over 1 million 911s over the years. So if you're concerned about losing that feeling and character of the 911, there are plenty of options for you already out there, so go get one. Recently, I set up an account on Bring a Trailer with alerts for all new 911 options, and there are at least a dozen new listings every week. Currently, there are 68 Porsches for sale, with more each day. Set yourself a budget, set up some alerts, and go find what drives you. If you're not just kicking tires and are actually serious about wanting to buy a 911, there's no reason not to, and I suspect you'll be surprised how many are available at any given time. Alright, pivoting back to last week and my LS swap video, you may recall one of the cars I covered and was most interested in was a fire-damaged Lamborghini Diablo, which had been painstakingly restored and then had an LS3 dropped in. Well, in an amazing twist of luck, one of my subscribers, who I actually talk to frequently, saw the car in person as the owner was prepping to sell it. In May of 2020, while in Glendale, Nevada, subscriber Terry stopped at a deserted gas station more or less in the middle of absolute nowhere. In Terry's own words, "I had stopped at an Arco station in Glendale, Nevada for gas and a break from driving. I was standing outside and I see and hear a beautiful Diablo pull into this desert stop gas station. The car sounded really good, but sounded louder and different. I looked the car over and talked to the owner, and he lived in a little town about a mile away. There was a pickup truck there with a car trailer, and he was meeting a guy to complete the transaction on the car he was selling. He told me of the 8 years of restoring the fire-damaged car, and that his cost was around $80,000 of his own labor, and of course mentioned the LS engine. The economy was down at that time, and he needed the money to pay off his mortgage. I believe he said that he accepted $65,000 from this other person. I was a bit shocked, as I was thinking I would have paid him that and had something way cooler than a fiberglass Cobra clone that cost around the same." Terry shared some great pictures of the car, used here with his permission, and you can see that it looks really fantastic. Same as Terry, if I had had the opportunity to buy an actual Diablo with high quality work done to swap in the LS3, I would have been very tempted to buy it. Whoever bought it sure got a steal, as I'm sure many of you will agree. It's unfortunate that after putting so much time and money into the car, that it sold for less than his own investment, but sometimes that's how things go. Hopefully, the owner got to enjoy it a bunch before he sold it. Either way, huge thanks to you, Terry, for sharing the story with me and adding a real-world connection to something that I had covered, as well as for letting me share the pictures and tell the story. This last segment of the video is the part I am most excited about sharing because it's from my own personal life and is the first step on the path to actually driving as a race car driver. I mentioned in my last video that myself and some friends had decided to start a team and enter the 24 Hours of Lemons racing. For those of you who aren't familiar, a quick recap is as follows. You grab some friends and you make a team. Then you're limited to an all-in budget of $500 for both the car and any performance-increasing parts or labor. You have an unlimited safety budget, which is good since there are rigorous safety requirements which you need to follow. Then you spend the next few months gutting the car and rebuilding it from the ground up, fixing and improving anything that you can on a shoestring budget. Of course, on the safety side, you have a fully welded-in roll cage, driver's seat, 5 or 6 point harnesses, electrical cutoffs, a full fire suppression system, etc. Think of it as the complete intersection of creativity, being frugal, and trying to go fast safely. Anyway, we're just starting out on this journey and are only about a week in, but we already have a 4-stall garage of dedicated space owned by another YouTuber, my friend from Northwoods Overland. We've even got our car picked and are in the process of purchasing it. It's a 2001 BMW 330 Ci with a 5-speed manual. It turns out that my neighbor, 2 houses over, has had it sitting in his driveway for years, wanting to do a project with it, but didn't get the chance to do so. The car is likely worth more than the $500 we paid, but the current owner has been gracious in taking $500 for it because he was excited that we were going to do something fun with it and learn how to do everything that it needs. As we get further into this process, I'll be covering everything end to end and doing more deep dives, but for now, I just wanted to share what we're doing and the direction we're headed. Also, I'll throw this out there. If you've ever done lemons or are in the Northeast US and have ideas for a theme for the car, suggestions for cage welders, or even just some insight to offer, please feel free to email me at fredsfullthrottle@gmail.com. This is going to be a great learning process throughout the year, and I can't wait to share the journey with you. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, Fred out!